Good yarn Good evening. Hello, hello. Happy Christmas Eve. Hello everybody. Good evening. Konbanwa. Buenas tardes. Guten Abend. Hello, hello. Hello. Man, I slept good last night. I didn't go to bed particularly early or late. I just kind of meandered into bed at the normal time, and my god, I slept well. Just turned off my alarm. I knew I wasn't getting up. I knew I wasn't gonna wake up for I warned you guys that we probably weren't gonna do moaning coffee this morning. So I just turned off my alarm. Usually, even if my alarm is off, I actually wake up before my alarm goes off. It's just a failsafe. But in the event that I do oversleep, it does help. But today I just turned it off. And I actually did sleep way past my normal wake up time. Felt good. Felt good. It was refreshing. Good sleep. You know what the scary thing is though? I totally forgot about the fact that last night was like, or not last night. Last night wasn't too bad. It's today that's really cold, right? But I left my window open, as I always do. And I mean, it was a little chilly when I woke up this morning, but it was like a refreshing kind of cold, you know. It wasn't so cold that I had to stay in bed. It was like a ooh, that's brisk kind of cold. But tonight, I probably should close my window. I think I actually still have it left open. Kinda dumb of me. But it's not sucking away at the power bill, because heat doesn't actually reach the room that I sleep in, so it's whatever. The Padoru, yeah! I figured I would at least throw something Christmassy on the screen. I totally forgot to like spice up the borders of like the stream a little bit. Maybe some like Christmas lights or something. No, I totally forgot. Just use the little Padoru. I baker. I never gave Atika I think it was Atika the first. Atika was first. Mwah. Good yarn. And then Atika, Weibo, Nicholas, Caveman, Nistra, Emma, Vivi, good yarn to all of you. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for showing up this evening. I don't know actually how long this stream is gonna be. It might not end up being super long, because we don't actually have that many books left to get through. In which case, we might extend it by reading some pedias, like how you say, there's like archive, oh not this, where is it, the archive, this archive has like a living beings, like a living being pedia or materials pedia, and like all of this we could also read, read through all of these things, because they all have some lore apparently behind them. Oh my lord, look at all this. Wow, they all have descriptions. I've never read through any of this before.
I'm exhausted, so gonna bounce and leave a lurk, but have a good holiday, Mono and chat.
Speaker, thank you. Please rest up, I hope you have a good holiday and Merry Christmas to you too. Mwah. Bye Beaker, take care. Thank you for the cheer. And Agent Kibo, welcome in, good yarn. I already said hi to Clitty, right? Yeah, so we might actually read all this too, since there's not too many books left to read. But without further ado, we've read all of these. These are all new. Wow! Wow. Atika! Holy shit, we're at 11. Thank you, Mono, for an amazing 2022. I had so much fun. I enjoyed every minute being here. Happy holidays to you and everyone. Yeah, good. It was a good year. It was a productive year. I'm hoping that next year is going to be even more crazy. I hope y'all are strapped in and ready for a wild ride, because next year I'm going full stop. Or no stop? Full stop? Full throttle. And Agent Kibo coming in with the East Atlantic announcer stun gun. Thank you very much. And it's a stun gun time. While we read, I mean, that is the point of the stun guns. But yes, Atia, thank you so much for with a tier 3, nonetheless. Mwah. Mwah. My sub anniversary is tomorrow. Tomorrow? That's unfortunate. I guess you'll have to redeem it next week. So I did say, I am saying this is going to be the last stream before Christmas. But however, after Christmas, I will actually, let's see, Monday I probably will not stream. But I will probably stream like Tuesday, Wednesday, what? Phoebe? What? Calling in the family? Calling in the Cortezes? Phoebe, thank you very much for 5 gifted. What in the world? Thank you for hiring Steven the demo, Bunny, Akai-san, Yuki, and Jan Rose into the special force. Ah, Jan will be so happy. Jana got a gift sub. Let's go. Yay. Thank you. What the heck? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Thank you for being a part of our community. Arigato. Okay. So, Heart's Desire. Oh my god, did I read all this? I think I did, right? I read these two, but I just couldn't get through. I don't think I could get through all of it because it was so long. These are the two that I haven't read, I'm pretty sure. Oh, wait. Yeah, right. Because this is volume 3. Oh my god. Actually so long. Okay, let me turn the music just a little down. Maybe actually I'll turn the music off and just the, I'll turn up the fire crackling sounds a little bit. Did somebody ring the dingster? The what? Did somebody ring the dingster? Is that a Spy Kids reference that I don't remember? The dingster? Did somebody ring the dingster? Sounds like something Carl would say. Alright. Well, we're starting with volume 3. I have no context. I have no recollection for what this story was about. It was a Spy Kids street. Wait, what the heck is that from? Did somebody ring the dingster? What scene is that from? Is that at the end? Is that at the end when they're Avengers assembling all the family? I swear that's probably at the end. All right, anyway. Oh, Bill Paxton said, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. No, now I remember. Yes, no. I totally remember exactly. Yep. Okay. I gotcha. That was the original Avengers Assemble, by the way. I know we've talked about this before. Imperios! Imperios is here to redeem the contribution. Let's go. Thank you for contributing towards the Cum Totem. Thank you, Imperios. And good evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Konbanwa. Alright. Legend tells of a corner of the city that has been forgotten by the wind. To reach that place, one must stand in the center of the plaza and close their eyes. Walk 7 circles clockwise around the plaza, followed by 7 anti-clockwise circles. Take 40 paces forward, and then wait, though the cries of the birds can no longer be heard in the wind. Upon opening one's eyes, one will find they have arrived at a little shop. The shopkeeper, who had fox-like eyes with slender lines for pupils, opened the glass double doors to let in the bright moonlight. Oh, I remember this story now! Which seemed to sweep up the stardust from across the night sky and sprinkle it down upon the counter. Everything, from the ostentatious flowers, the dust-covered harpastum, and the old books rendered illegible by years of erosion, to the now stringless old longbow, appeared as the opulent halls of the ruling aristocrats might have done in times of old, covered in a shiny silver coating, though this was a silver that came from the cold light of the night sky. Hey, business any good these days? This audacious alternative to the courteous greeting most people would opt for in the circumstances came from somewhere deep in the back of the shop. The shopkeeper turned around. A familiar customer who sat nonchalantly on her armchair in the part of the shop that the moonlight did not reach.
Business is fine, but those days it would appear I need to watch out for burglars.
The shopkeeper responded with a slight smile. That's it? You're going to turn away your oldest customer just like that? The customer let out a sigh. There's nothing in your shop that's worth me spending money on anyway. I mean, if I really had to pick something.
Well,
How was the hunt? What do you mean? You think I'm just here to offload some loot again? Thank you for the hype train, by the way, guys. Thank you. Why, of course. When have I ever heard you use the word loot before? On the contrary, all the exchanged goods, free gifts, and philanthropic donations, bestowals, and so on, that you have so generously given over the years, why, they must make you the most charitably inclined burglar to roam the streets, no? Well, that's not what I'm here for this time. This time, I'm here to ask for something from you. The wine. That special wine you've got that helps you forget about one you long for. Though a burglar by trade, this customer was nevertheless valiant at heart. His words lacked courtesy, but the smile on his face was entirely earnest. Choo-choo. Minsky Gunyarnyar, welcome in. Good evening, konbanwa, buenas tardes, guten Abend.
I'm terribly sorry. Somebody has already bought it.
He looked, and somehow she was now holding in her hand the wine flask that he had discreetly slipped into his breast pocket earlier.
Each item in this store is spoken for. This particular one has already been bought by a customer who will turn up at some point in the future.
It seems your sleight of hand is superior to my own. What a disgrace I am. The burglar of valor said with a pained smile. I discovered recently that the feeling of longing for someone is heavier to carry than gold. In my line of work, I am forever leaping between rooftops and running along rafters. I need to cut out whatever unnecessary weight I can. I wonder if the girl with the sapphire blue eyes feels the same weight that I feel. Or the same weight that I feel. Marilia, good yarn, good evening, konbanwa, buenas tardes, guten Abend. Hi. Suddenly, the shopkeeper was startled by the jingle of the doorbell. The customer who had just arrived was a blue-eyed sorceress with a pole in her hand, and a tall, slender figure to match. The marks on her face bore witness to her persecution by the aristocrats. Ignoring the piles of random objects strewn around the store, she marched straight to the counter like a sword lunging towards its opponent's heart.
Welcome to the store. Do you see anything that takes your fancy?
I have an item I wish to exchange. Her tone sounded cold but fragile, like thin ice in the moment that it shatters. As the sorceress spoke, she placed a giant blue crystal onto the counter. A burglar pried this from an aristocrat's silver goblet. He gave it to me as a gift, and then I was punished by my master for it. But that was many years ago. I had thought that with the passage of time, my anger would be quenched and my desire to see him again would fade away.
Very well. What sum of mora do you ask for in return?
The sorceress gestured towards the tableware cabinet, in which stood an aristocrat's silver goblet with its gemstone missing. The fox-eyed shopkeeper turned the crystal in her hand, flooding the room with the brilliant blue light that reflected off its surface.
I see. Well, provided that this is what you really want.
Hi, Kale. Good yarn. Oh, and Bunny. Welcome in. Good yarn. Good evening. When a person encounters a setback, the worry that everything shall come to a fruitless conclusion appears. The advent of fear causes cracks to appear in the mind. Death follows easily in the footsteps of fear, like a damp cold that to the unprepared pierces to the bone. For many, it is only in the moment that death is upon them that it dawns on them that their weakness has now been targeted with fatal consequences, and that at some point, therefore, that weakness must have been exposed. Lifting the blue crystal up into the moonlight, the shopkeeper gazes at it intently with her fox-like eyes with slender lines for pupils. She watched with delight as the crest of the ruling family came into view, faded out, and came back into view once more. Legends claim that peering into a pure gemstone at a specific time can reveal the past, the future, and even someone's true nature. Just as legends claim that somewhere in the world there is a field of dandelions as vast as the sea, or that once there were 3 bright moons in the night sky named Aria, Sonnet, and Canon, sisters who were parted by death in a great catastrophe. Weibo, good yarn, and Khan, good yarn, good evening, Gomama. Or that there was once a witch who could see death before it took place, but in the end herself died from a broken heart, as he who had stolen it from her waited in distant lands longing to see her again. One thing she knew for certain was that even if she were to abandon these objects, the legends attached to them would not disappear, and the way the stories ended could not be undone, in which case it seemed to make sense to collect all the legends and stories she could in her shop. Volume 4, Heart of Stone. Legend tells of a corner of the harbor that has been forgotten by the mountain rocks and the sound of the crashing waves. To reach that place, one must stand in the sea breeze and close their eyes, walk 49 steps away from the clamor of the city streets, then wait until complete silence replaces the sound of the voices in the background, the only remaining sound being that of one's own heartbeat. Upon opening one's eyes, one will find they have arrived at a little shop. "Is anybody in?" The man tapped on the front door as he called out. He was draped in a raincoat. He peered in through the dusty windows at the objects on display around the store: a bottle of glimmering stardust, a broken blade that gleamed like ice, a painting on a roll of paper that the years had turned yellow, an elixir that gave off a mysterious aurora, a tile thinly coated with a gel-like substance. He entered the store. The door closed behind him. He walked over to the counter and began inspecting the weird and wonderful objects in the store. All seemed to be relics from a bygone era. Then, a soft female voice came from beside him.
"Welcome to the store. Do you see anything that takes your fancy?"
Taken by surprise, he turned to face the speaker, a fox-eyed shopkeeper, who let out a faint smile. "Here's the thing. I'm looking for a certain something that can help me settle an old score." The man spoke with a voice that was clear and resonant, but had a hint of apprehensiveness behind it, one which did not seem to fit with his physical appearance.
"Oh? Very well then."
The shopkeeper's golden fox-like eyes flickered as she examined this new customer of hers, who was draped in a soaking wet raincoat. She gave a nod. She leaned down to search in the bottom of the cabinet. When she stood up a moment later, she was holding a large and beautiful piece of core lapis. The core lapis in the shopkeeper's hand gently glowed a dark shade of gold, much in the same way that her eyes did. The man took the stone from her hand and studied it closely in the moonlight. In this light, the core lapis seemed to reveal a deep turbulence concealed within its soft golden hue. His hands were still trembling.
Core lapis is the sound of the rocks. Even the hardest and most resilient of rocks will over time eventually produce a pure, limpid soul.
The shopkeeper's voice seemed to be coming from a distant place. The man gave a nod. "This is precisely what I was looking for." The man solemnly responded, and placed a heavy sack of mora upon the counter. Then he left the store and ventured off into the midnight rain. Thank you, Kale. Excuse me. Hold on, let me take a sip of tea.
That's what happened.
After the shopkeeper had spoken, she narrowed her fox-like eyes and examined the customer in front of her. Did he say nothing at all? Or did he say nothing else at all? Judging by his appearance, the young man was presumably a minor. His eyes betrayed an urgency that he could not contain, but the shopkeeper responded simply by calmly shaking her head.
He left a sack of mora with bloodstains on the outside.
Like a pool of water, the shopkeeper's voice was calm and still, but also icy cold. This is precisely what I was looking for. The young man let out a long sigh. It seemed he wanted to evade the golden gaze of the fox-eyed shopkeeper. In return, I will give you a story. The shopkeeper nodded her head to indicate that he should continue. That man in the raincoat, I used to go mining with him. Up in the mountains, I wanted to make a name for myself. He just wanted to support his family. One rainy night, we broke open a rock to find that substantial piece of core lapis inside. The pure golden glow that radiated from its surface was a more breathtaking sight to behold than all the marvels of Jayun Karst put together. We agreed that we would split it 50-50 once we got back to Liyue Harbor. But that night, under cover of the deafening roar of the torrential rain, I discreetly made it so that the cliff top would be his final resting place. I did it because I was scared I couldn't trust him. I couldn't trust in a promise that aside from ourselves, only the Adepti could have heard, and they're probably imaginary anyway. So fear won me over. I could bring myself to accept that the whole sum could be mine, if I was willing to get blood on my hands, but I couldn't bring myself to accept the risk of traveling with a stranger. Is this about Zhongli? I think maybe the shopkeeper is Zhongli. I think that's the point. I don't know. The following morning, I let down my rope and began my descent down the cliff. I had taken maybe 4 steps, 5 or 6 steps, and I was adjusting my footing on a rock trembling permeated every fiber of my being. Footing on a rock when suddenly I felt the rope trembling in the palms of my hands. Instantly, the same trembling permeated every fiber of my being. I lifted my head to look at the rope, but it was too late. The last thing I remember seeing was the torn rope fibers at the end of the snapped rope. Only a hunting knife could have made a clean cut like that, I am sure of it. Then, in the end, you two settled your score. The fox-eyed shopkeeper smiled so faintly, it was all but indiscernible.
He takes the core lapis, and you take the whole sum of money for it.
The young man did not say much in reply. Legends claim that core lapis is in the soul of the rocks of the earth, and that the stronger the life force of the rock, the more power it possesses to reveal a person's true nature. Some say that even after its owner has left the world, core lapis will bring their unfulfilled desire and regret back into it, waiting for one with the ability to fulfill them. So the legends claim. It had now been around 4 hours since the 2 strange customers had left the store. The rain continued to pour down. The shopkeeper stood by the window for a long time, peering out at the dark street engulfed in misty rain.
But is the score truly settled? And are they now truly free?
She spoke as if posing her question to the curtain of rain, but now knowing that the answer would never come. And that was Heart's Desire. Hex and Hound. How long is this? At least the volumes look like short-ish. Oh my god. Thank you for the hydrated Dika. Thank you. Sassy, good yarn. Maybe this won't be such a short stream. Maybe there's quite a few volumes. Oh. But I don't have all the volumes unlocked for some of these stories. Bummer. Bummer. That's okay. Woof. It's still a lot of reading. Hi Sassy, welcome in. I'm at a Vietnamese restaurant right now, but I gotta tune in. Hi Shiba. Good evening. I hope you eat good food. And good yarn. Good evening, konbanwa. Buenas tardes. Guten Abend. Hex and Hound. Oh, this is about the Lawrence clan. Nice. This is about Eula's heritage. Maybe not Eula's heritage, but it's a story involving Eula's predecessors. As it is known to all, the Lawrence clan is a noble family of considerable notoriety. The nobles idle away their time extorting the common folk to furnish their lavish lifestyles. They lead licentious lives under their cruel governance. Countless unspeakable crimes are committed against the people. Although the common folk unanimously resent the nobles' greed, they are powerless to speak a single word against them. Young Dietrich was a highborn noble. He hadn't yet committed any deplorable crimes at his tender age. In fact, his swordsmanship was reputably exceptional among the noble circles. If you wished to find something to cavil about, it would have been his short temper and chronic delusion that the whole universe revolved around him. Such traits, of course, are not uncommon among the sons of nobility, so it wasn't of any major concern. However, given that he was born into the Lawrence family name, maybe I should read this like all pompous. It was only a matter of time before he would get drafted into the ranks of the other scoundrels. It was at this time that the young scoundrel decided upon the first reckless act of his life. A short while earlier, Dietrich had made up his mind to skip the Grand Mage's discourse on the elements in favor of a bit of fun outside the confines of the city. As he pressed his way through the streets crowded by commoners, his gaze fell upon a young lass with blonde hair and blue eyes. Dietrich was at a loss for words for the emotions that bubbled in his heart at that moment. The only thing he was certain of was that his heart had never thumped so loudly or so uncontrollably within his chest. So this must be how dear mother feels when she sees her kitty. As Dietrich kept thinking in his heart, he suddenly found himself moving towards where she was standing. Much to his dismay, the young commoner girl didn't so much as bat an eyelid at him. After making his identity known to her, she didn't display even the slightest sign of any interest. Convinced that this commoner didn't understand what was good for her, he decided that he would carry her off under the cover of night. Once I take her, I'll lock her away in a cage, just like dear mother would when her kitty is being naughty. Oh boy. We have a quote-unquote love story on our hands. The plebeian lass arrived in the city on one fine sunny day. Her long golden hair shone like the spring sunshine, and her blue eyes sparkled like the gleaming waves in the afternoon sun. It's hard to imagine how such a girl could travel alone from the monster-infested outskirts all the way to the city. To call the suspect would only be an insult to her beauty. Thus shouted the drunken gate sentry among the clamor of the crowded tavern. His earnings from guarding the gate that day were especially bountiful, enough to keep his cup brimming until dawn at least. We all know you were just dumbstruck by her beauty. The man next to him pulled no punches. Ha! What do you know? Do I look like one to go frolicking after ladies? I'll show you what I really have my eye on. The soldier promptly pulled out his money purse and shook it in his hand. Good heavens, today drinks are on you. You heard the man, drinks all round. I'm just worried that one more will be one too many for you. So this traveling scholar who went by the name of Notty settled into a newfound life in the city. Notty spoke in a quiet, gentle manner. A rumor eventually began floating around the streets, claiming that if you exchanged a few words with Notty during the day, you would have sweet dreams the following night. Apart from this, the new girl didn't disturb the lives of those in the city in any matter. After all, the people not only had their daily lives to deal with, but also the constant oppression from the nobility. Oh, who is this?
I thought life in the city would be simple. I never imagined it would be like this.
As rays of sunset filled her room, she tilted her head and rested it on her hands. Sitting beside the table, her fingers seemed to be circling around something. Her words flowed like a magical chant with the power to persuade people into believing almost anything. Volume 3. Night came. The faint howl of a wild beast could be heard echoing in the distance. It seemed to be the cry of a wolf. Notty sat on her bed and lifted her long sleeves to reveal a bone-white armband carved in the fashion of a coiling snake. The serpent's head was strikingly lifelike, with its mouth stretched open to reveal its fangs. Its neck was reared back as if ready to pounce on its prey the very next moment. The snake's slithering body was wrapped around her arm, emitting a dangerous aura under the rays of the magical lamps that lit the room.
Good night, my dear sister.
Notty gently petted the armband, rubbing her pinky playfully along the snake's tail. Shortly after, the magic lamps went out, and the entire room was draped in darkness. The darkness of night brought Notty boundless power, so Notty was already wise to the unknown presence the moment it entered the room. Sitting on the bed, Notty could clearly see Dietrich as he quietly gathered her clothes and felt his way around in the dark. It became harder and harder for Notty to hold back her laughter until Dietrich was just in front of her. Dietrich met the same dazzling eyes that occupied his mind all day, but her eyes were somehow different now. They were no longer blue like water as Dietrich had seen that day. At this moment, they were filled with the night, devoid of waves, tranquil like the depths of the sea.
Here, drink the water in this cup.
That was the last thing Dietrich heard before his consciousness faded away. Volume 4. The cup fell from the languid hand of Dietrich, as Dietrich collapsed to the floor. Naughty crouched beside Dietrich and relieved him of the saber sheathed upon his waist. She stroked the hilt of the blade for a moment before pulling back her hand, and a black gemstone that had been inlaid in the hilt fell into her palm.
How convenient. You have brought the Eye of Eternal Night right to me. Thank you.
Removing the snake armband as she spoke, she placed the black gemstone in the mouth of the snake. Scales and flesh began to quickly ripple from the snake's head down its body. A small black snake uncoiled in Noddy's hands, slithering off her palm and falling to the floor. The snake began to enlarge, forming into a massive python. Ayo? With red eyes and black scales, its twisting body almost filled the whole room. Noddy extended her hand as the magical lamps illuminated the room. The python began to shrink down again and coiled back around her arm.
Are you hiding?
Noddy turned her gaze to beneath the bed, under which she found a dog. It was trembling uncontrollably, probably frightened by the python a moment before.
Oh, what a pity. I wanted to turn you into a wolf, but it seems you turned into a dog instead.
Although Noddy's words seemed to be apologizing, her voice lacked any hint of remorse. Dietrich still hadn't realized what had happened yet. It was only by pure instinct that he had scurried onto the bed. Only then did he begin to come to his senses. He tried to say something after hearing Noddy's words, but no matter how hard he tried, only woof, woof, woof would come out. After hearing himself, Dietrich panicked and dashed out from under the bed. No matter how many times Dietrich leaped in front of the mirror, or how many times he howled in disbelief, the reflection of a striking young noble never appeared again. Dietrich then turned with a snarl and leapt towards Noddy. Without even being the least bit startled, she simply glanced at him with folded arms. Suddenly, Dietrich could no longer move toward her, no matter how hard he tried.
That's not a proper etiquette for addressing the lady. It seems you need to be trained.
Is this the doggy's training arc? My god, what kind of book are we reading right now? Volume 5.
Allow me to introduce myself again. I am not Frigga, but perhaps you're more familiar with my nickname. People call me the Enchantress of the Night.
As she spoke, her long golden hair began to gradually darken, eventually turning black as the night sky outside the window. Her once sky blue eyes were now pitch black, ushering in the darkness of the night.
I am your master now. Of course, I will need to train you well.
Nordfrigga knelt down and placed a necklace that seemingly appeared out of nowhere on the still struggling Dietrich. Show! Thank you for the follow. Welcome to HQ, Nakakisune. Welcome on in. Welcome. The necklace shrank in size until it fit perfectly around his furry neck. No matter how he thrashed his head about or clawed at it, the necklace would not budge.
We've already wasted so much time. Come, we're leaving.
With that, Nofriga set off towards the city. Dietrich whimpered along the way with all the strength he could muster, wishing he could simply run back to his villa, but he couldn't. No matter how hard he tried, the necklace Notfriga had placed on him seemed to somehow control him, so he had no choice but to follow behind her. Azangami, thank you for the follow. Welcome to HQ, Nakakisne. Welcome on in. Welcome. Welcome. Notfriga glanced back at the reluctant Dietrich dawdling behind her, and curled a strand of her hair around her finger.
Although it is certainly amusing to watch you struggle in your current state, you are much too noisy, so unless you'd like a taste of my new Silence of the Night spell, you'd better keep your yapping mouth shut.
The whole world seemed to fall into silence at that moment. Intuition told Daedrich that it'd be best not to become the latest test subject of Notfrigga's new spell. Daedrich witnessed the fall of the House of Lawrence. Who knew where Mother Kitty's had gone? His father driven to distraction, and his mother hysterical were so close by, and yet no matter how he shouted, they did not pay him any heed. Arf! Daedrich lowered his head, but before he could speak again, the ground opened up beneath him. A pair of old crone's hands stretched out from the hand, seizing him by the neck. Then he fell, and his fall seemed to not end, till at least he crashed to the earth at the feet of the old witch. Strangely, it did not hurt at all. Something hooked onto Daedrich's necklace, and he found himself hoisted up bodily. All before him was darkness, and he could see only one thing, that which was below him. It was a steaming pot, filled with some unknown black substance that gurgled and belched. There were some solids in there too. Excuse me. And when he looked, he could... Etsby? He could spy? Is that a typo? He could spy spiderwebs in the bones of venomous vipers. Into his ear crept Notfrigga's voice. Ah, I have you now, my last ingredient. Once I've put you in, my stew of life eternal shall be complete. Let me go, you dastardly witch! Daedrich struggled with all his might, not thinking for a moment that the bond of the hitherto inescapable necklace would suddenly be so easily slipped. And so he fell. He heard nothing more, naught else but the howling wind and Notfrigga's crazed laughter whipping about his ears. Wake up! Daedrich felt his body being rocked gently. Are you all right? A hand reached over as if to check his breathing. It was a familiar voice, gentle as the April breeze, and genial as the March sun. Daedrich forced his eyes open, and before them was the golden-haired, blue-eyed girl. Oh, wonderful. You're finally awake, she said with a smile. This place, is this Celestia? Daedrich wondered. No, I'm afraid it's just an ordinary forest, the girl replied. Then Daedrich's senses returned to him, and he knew that the young lady before him was the source of all his troubles, the wicked old witch, Notfrigga. In a flash she had recovered, and leaping a distance away from her, and he maintained a guarded stance. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Oh, I must have forgotten to introduce myself. My name is Magdalene. I'm Notfrigga's younger sister. So saying, Magdalene gave the finger behind her back a twirl, a calming spell of light magic, and she approached Daedrich. Come now, it's all right. At this did Daedrich indeed calm down. He desired to ask the girl before him how she could understand him, but he could still do naught but bark. Oh, it is but a small spell. My sister knows it too. Ruff, 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 ruff. So that crone did hear what I had said, and simply pretended not to, so she might string me along? Well, still, Notfrigga is actually a gentle person. And speaking of her sister, Magdalene smiled gorgeously once more. Do witches trade their brains for mighty magic? I can't get through to her at all. Daedrich thought to himself as he followed the golden-haired maiden, who rambled on about something or another. I don't say. If my sister heard you, she would be most angry. Magdalene said this in a quiet voice as she looked at Daedrich. Ruff, 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 ruff. Well, you needn't tell her. Wait, how did you know what I was thinking? But it is too late now. Daedrich lifted his head in alarm at the rising pressure above him. Her expression had not changed at all, but even so, he knew that the girl before him was now changed. It seemed that your nightmare has been of some use, for your memory at least. But as I see it, you are still far from adequate. That proud, cold voice came from on high. Yes, surely, this was not Frigga.
Well, then I suppose I shall leave you the essence of inmost heart inside you.
What on earth was the essence of inmost heart? Wait. No. Magdalene had mentioned just such a thing.
Don't worry. The nightmare from before was a falsehood. My sister placed the essence of the inmost heart into you, and it can see your fears. That is why you dreamed of the thing you fear most. But I think that my sister must have done it for your own good. She is, after all, a most gentle soul.
Diedrich's fur stood on end, and he trembled as he peeked at Notfriga, banishing any other thoughts from his mind.
It seems that my teachings have been quite useful indeed. Well then, let us be on our way out.
Diedrich's frightened appearance pleased his master, the witch. This was a forest without end. A fine mist shrouded the area, and the golden rays of dawn shone through the canopy, scattering themselves upon the emerald earth below. At this point, Magdalene was clutching a dog. Indeed, this was Diedrich, as she kept up a leisurely pace. The golden-haired maiden traipsed upon the gnarled roots of massive trees in an elegant swan, lithely making her way through the forest.
How fortunate that she is currently Magdalene.
How fortunate that she is currently Magdalene. If it were the hag, not Frida, she would certainly make me walk or use some sort of magic to force me to run. This path is not made for dogs. No, not even humans could traverse it. There isn't even a road, only trees. It would be nice if Magdalene could keep carrying me like this. Diedrich's thoughts meandered as he turned to look at Magdalene. The morning light danced upon her face. She possessed a beauty that could not be considered lesser than any noblewoman's. Her light complexion and her gentle expression made her seem delicate, like the short-lived morning dew born upon a flower petals.
Magdalene's skin is so fair, I dare say none of the nobles I've met can compare to her.
Diedrich thought as he gazed upon the girl.
Let me tell you a story. That is, I'm already dead.
Magdalene suddenly spoke.
Is she telling the story? A long time ago, there was a witch who gave birth to twin daughters. However, witches are unable to keep two offspring from the same generation. That is the price, they say, the cost of their enormous power. But this witch had already reached the apex of mastery in dark magic. She offered her own life force to preserve the life of her twins. Still, this solution could not last forever, and as the last of the witch's life force faded, the day of their fated farewell arrived at last. In death, the witch was finally freed from the world. The surviving elder sister, Notfriga, inherited everything, and felt entirely responsible for the passing of her younger sister, Magdalene. Luckily for Notfriga, she inherited the witch's talent for dark magic. Using herself as a vessel, she summoned Magdalene's soul using complicated magical symbols and obscure incantations. Then, she read all of the leather-bound books in the tower, and combining what she learned with dark magic and alchemy, created a new vessel. However, the ability to place her sister's soul inside the vessel and bring her back to life was not only forbidden art in the light magic, it was also exceptionally difficult, especially for Notfriga, who knew no light magic whatsoever. Nevertheless, Notfriga's insistence on bringing Magdalene's back spurred her on, and eventually she found a solution. She transformed the vessel into a serpent bracelet that she wore on her wrist, and set out on an adventure. My beloved sister, when this is all over, we will never be part again. The last ray of light was fading. The last ray of light was fading, and darkness was about to engulf the forest. It's time to switch, my dear elder sister.
Suddenly, Magdalene put down Diedrich, whom she had been holding in her arms.
One last thing, elder sister. I have a present for you. I hope you like it.
With this, light slowly began to shine from her fingers, gradually forming a dazzling bowl of light. This was Magdalene's light magic.
All right, from now on, you have to be well behaved. Shh, don't say anything.
What? Why are you being so mysterious? Ugh! Before Diedrich could react, he had quietly muttered something, but his speech was interrupted before he suddenly found a slender hand tightly covering his mouth. A moment later, the girl, now transformed, hastily stuffed something into his mouth. What's this? It was the hilt of Daedrus's sword, the sword that once proudly hung from his spelt. Ugh! Daedrus opened his mouth instinctively to say something. Bite down on it if you want to live. Notfrega raised one hand into the air. Oh no, not the toilet ASMR right when the raid happens. No! No! Teeny Tanuki, welcome in, raiders. Hi. Cozy raid, thank you for the raid. It's just like this stream for us to get the swirly toilet ASMR as soon as you come in. Hi, welcome. Welcome on in. Hi, Teeny, Skycrafter. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to HQ, Nagakusine. Welcome on in. It's so like this channel for us to receive the toilet ASMR of legend as soon as you guys rate. Welcome, hi. I'm Mono. I'm a cozy, super sexy super spy. Nice to meet ya. I somehow raided from Hills into Teeny. Hey, welcome. Hi. Hey. I see you in Hills' channel all the time. Hi. Welcome in. Thank you for the raid, guys. Rev Clever Beast, Neko Hype, Skycrafter. Hi, Teeny. I hope you had a good stream. You were doing ASMR. Welcome. This is kind of like an ASMR stream. It's a pseudo ASMR stream. I had a subathon back in July where one of the redeems was I read every single book available in Genshin Impact, right? And we got pretty close to finishing back in, I think August was when I first redeemed this, and we didn't come back to it until today. But I'm gonna get through all of the books. I'm also going to read all the lore behind all of the items of Genshin Impact and whatever. But if you'd like to stick around for that, feel free. Otherwise, Teeny, I know you just got done with stream. So, wait, what am I waiting for? Am I waiting for something? Wait, what am I waiting for? Are? Nani? I know you just got done with stream, Teeny, so if you need to go post-stream, take care of yourself, and if you need to go unclog, unstink, unfamish, unquench. No. I'll probably leave you a lurk, but I hope you have good reads. For the raiders. Ugh. Okay. I need to hear this first. I need to swap to the ASMR mic. Hold on. It'll take only a second. 1 sec. Maybe I'll read one of the stories with the 3DO. Atika, thank you for the Oh wait. Did I not swap? I didn't swap. Hold on. I didn't swap. There we go. There we go. Adika, thank you for the Ada.多すぎなんだけど。ニャーニャー。アイスカラー。ニャーニャー。あらあら。あらあら。あらあら。あらあら。あらあら。あらあら。あらら。お嬢ちゃん So many araras. Arara. 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 I think I redeemed enough. I always make it a stream at the perfect time. You did indeed. You made it right when we swapped over to the 3DO. You know what? Oh. Jay. 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 Thank you for the name, Redeem. Atika. 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 Thank you for the name, Redeem. Didn't know I needed this in my life until now. Hi, Sky. Look what you started, for real. Jay, I swear to God, if you actually listened on your speakers, I'll kill you. I'll kill you, a concept. Ellen. Or, wait, hold on. Thank you for the redeem. Marilia. 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 I have my ears glued to the speaker, so it's... God damn it, Jay. Alright. Any other last minute redeems? Actually, I'll stay on the 3DO. I'll stay on the 3DO and read one of the stories on the 3DO. So, or maybe a couple. Yay. Yay. Another one. Arara. 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 Not the squats. Fruity. Fruity, read the room. Read the room. Oh, wait. I totally forgot. Before I forget, I need to follow Teeny back. Tanuki means that Teeny is a raccoon VTuber, and raccoons are adorable. So I'm gonna go check her out. Or check them out. Not the toilet ASMR. I'm illiterate. Now I have to, like, uncomfy myself. I had my blanket. I was, like, all in the nice squat position. Not squat. Nice sitting position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, another librarian VTuber. I see. But a raccoon nonetheless. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Oh, sorry, that was loud. My legs. Now I have to get all comfy again. My blanket was so warm. Fuck you, Freddy. Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. That's okay. I need to probably do some squats. Anyway, I've had a lot of good food recently. Good food usually means I need to burn the calories off. Okay. Okay. Can't have you getting lazy on this. Nope. Nope. Not here. Okay. We didn't finish this, did we? Bite down on it if you want to live. Not for your raised one hand into the air, and Didrich felt unable to breathe as the collar around his neck grew tighter and tighter. What? Powerless to resist, it was all he could do to bite down as instructed. Listen carefully. In a moment, you will need to defend yourself with this sword. Even though you're an ignorant and useless spoiled brat, it would still be a lot of trouble for me if you died here. Not Frigga raised Didrich's head and spoke in a low voice. After all, I haven't finished teaching you a lesson yet. It would ruin my fun if you died too easily. The Witch of the Night finished speaking and retracted her hand to adjust her garments. The collar loosened again, returning to normal tightness. At once, air rushed past his teeth and in through his nostrils, filling up his lungs again. Didrich still did not dare relax his jaw's grip on the sword. However, so he had to make do with somewhat impaired breathing. Before long, the sound of commotion was heard in the distance. Nice. Next, The Pale Princess and the Six Pygmies. Oh, I only have volume 1. Bummer. In the distant past, the Night Mother ruled over the faraway land of night. Here, no light touched the earth, nor did a single tree grow, and there was no life here but the horrendous denizens of the dark. The Night Mother was the source of all sins, and the land of night was the embodiment of her evilness. The cruel Night Mother, who had neither heart nor mouth, was always watching the land of night, and her punishments were always unexpected. The only thing she could not bear was the occasional ray of moonlight that made it through the clouds. The light that penetrated the walls of darkness always irritated her. The Moonlight Forest was the only place free from the rule of the Night Mother. Only there could the people bask in the bright moonlight and enjoy the grace it brought to the living. Everyone in the kingdom of the Moonlight Forest was born with fair skin, light-colored hair, and bright blue eyes. Perhaps the constant lack of sunlight and the nourishment of the moonlight was the reason for their beauty, giving them an appearance different from the abhorrent creatures lurking at the edge of the forest. Yeah, these are all Genshin books. Hello, hi TT, welcome back. Hi. Good yarn, good evening. But unfortunately, this book we only had 1 volume. Legend of the Lone Sword. Volume 1. Yeah, I'm finishing my subathon, or one of my subathon redeems from a while back, because I never read the rest of the books, so I'm trying to read the rest before going on the little weekend break. A single sword's light pierced the night sky. Nyar. Or pierced the night air, unchallenged by any star or moon. The autumn wind in the mountains wept aloud, following the whirling dance of the lonesome blade. Driving wind and falling rain accompanied a single traveler on his solitary journey. Good yarn. Did he finish all? Oh fuck, I didn't finish the ARAMs. I have to do that next week. I have to finish the ARAMs. I have to finish Jump King, and I have to finish ARAMs. You're so right. I have to do 15 too. Oh my god. I'll play them all in like one day. Oh, don't worry. Special ASMR is coming. It's gonna drop. It'll drop probably like on New Year's or something. And that'll be on the YouTube channel. This person's hair was wild, and his face fierce, and he seemed most fey indeed. His clothes were thin, and he swayed this way and that in the center of the homeward path, like one sick or hurt to the quick, seeming more like some ghoul than a living man. He had been on the path 3 days. 3 days he had gone hungry, and without any sleep. 3 days ago, he had a name and a famed sword, and his fallen martial arts school. But now, he only wore sorrow and worry on his brow, which rolled off of him, carried by the sun and rain, and onto the mud below, eroding the soil. I have it's like a YouTube that I'm not using really at the moment, but it will get lots of use out of it next year. I'm gonna be much more active on YouTube next year. 3 days ago, that nameless swordsman had started a feud with him, a feud that saw his master and junior buried in the merciless mountain snow as the screaming snow was stained red. Today, he had a new name, Jin, the 72nd, for he was the last of the 72 members of their school. He did not know how long he had walked before he heard the sound of carts behind him. Jin, the 72nd, shuffled to the side of the road and stopped, asking, "Is your cart headed for Tupai village?" The cart driver saluted him and replied, "Few of the carts on this road do not do so." Jin, the 72nd, then asked, "Then pray will your cart bear another man?" The cart driver said, "It could, but you did not ask if I would." Jin, the 72nd, did not understand. "If you travel to Tupi village, why would you not take me?" "For you are not I, nor I you," the driver replied. What a waste of words. And no sooner had that been said than the blade left its sheath. The cart driver felt but a single chilling cold, and fell from his cart to the floor without a struggle, never to speak again. What the hell? Jin's kind of a dick. Jin the 72nd was such a person, though he had lost everything, even his heart, and his bold brashness had ebbed. He had always hated pointlessly talkative people most of all. Riding the blood-stained cart, Jin the 72nd departed for Tupi village. What a dick. Hello? They say that the faraway land Tupi meant to burn away vanity's dross to attain the gem of truth. Tupi village lay at the foot of a barren mountain passable to the outside world only by a single ancient path, the very same that lay beneath Jin the 72nd's feet. The skies were darkening, and the wind and rain howled. Jin the 72nd had never had anything to do with Tupi village but for his vengeance, and so he now sought out its village chief. By the time the ox cart had finally trudged its way through the muddy old road to the mountain's base, night fell upon the land, and gloomy clouds cast a boundless shadow as they covered the moon's eyes. Jin the 72nd hid that shade, drinking the night in, body and soul. In that deep night, the pure white light of the moon shone upon the head of the village chief. Tupi village had never been large, but the chief was no ordinary character. No one knew his name or his past, and no one dared ask. They only knew that his shoulders bore a great blood debt, from a past as crimson as his eyes. For red they were, and sharp like a blade, piercing the hearts of all he gazed upon as he pleased. His character was much the same, like a sharp knife that might pierce another person's heart at any time without forewarning. "It's time." The chief shook his head as he talked to himself, the cold moonlight dancing over his shaven crown. Outside, a ravenous demon wielded a bloodletting longsword, massacring his followers one after the other. Though Tupi village was full of evil people, schools and sects had their rules, and so none would dare come knocking with rash provocations and talk of vengeance. But Jin the 72nd had no school or sect, and was thus unbound by any such rules. He was but a single starving ghost with a lone sharp blade, yearning to taste the blood of his enemies. The wind and rain accompanied the din of battle, and the downpour washed away the crimson that stained the swordsman, only for another layer to be painted on immediately. Hi, Ted Bunny. Hi, hi. Welcome in. The crimson swordsman strode forward amid a crimson mist. Many were his wounds, but none could stay his hand. When that mist had at last cleared in the endless deluge, the swordsman crossed the turbid red beneath his feet and stalked towards the chief's mansion. The din beyond the gates quieted, and only now did the chief raise a cup of wine and scatter the alcohol into the air with a flick, perhaps to toast the fated meeting to come, or as a ritual for his sullied soul. The doors opened. It was Jin, the 72nd, his reddened outline juxtaposed against the blinding gray elements outside. I have questions for you, village chief. You've taken quite a few of my men's lives. Exactly 362. No more, no less. The chief spoke not, and his face remained still, but the pulsing vein in his temple betrayed the fire within. Ah, yes. And one dog. So saying, the crimson silhouette tossed a certain object forward. It clattered atop the wine case, and it was the bone of the dog that guarded the door. It had been stewed for a time, and was picked clean almost to the marrow. For in this half an hour, not only had Jin the 72nd snuffed out the lives of 362 able men, but he had even turned the dog keeping the gate into dog meat stew. What cruelty! What ruthlessness! The village chief let out a terrible scream, and standing, he drew his sword. Dude, Jin is kind of... he kind of has no chill. I'm glad you enjoyed them earlier, thank you. The rain had ceased, but light had yet to recoup the skies. Jin the 72nd had obtained news of his nemesis from the mouth of the village chief. Now, not a thing was left in Tupi village but masterless rooms and masterless spirits. And not even that remained, for this was a world without spirits. This so, the memories of the dead could not remain in the mortal realm via elemental resonance. Hi, Hanami. Good evening. The village chief was a formidable foe. His blade was swift as could be, and he had left many wounds on Jin the 72nd, each deep enough to cut bone. But alas, his heart was far too slow. For this was a world without elements, and thus swordsmanship could not be imbued with them. Swordsmanship was thus a question of pure physical skill, and not elemental control. The sword is an extension of one's body, and one uses it as an arm would command the fingers, or as one's heart directs thy eyes. Though he was skilled indeed in the art of the swift blade, the village chief never understood the value of the heart, and so he fell to a single stroke. Jin the 72nd strode towards the fallen chief, discarding the broken incense burner in his left hand, for the chief had focused too narrowly on pouring savage strokes upon the swordsman's body, thinking him to harried the fight back, and had no eyes for his enemy's left hand, which should have been empty. And in a flash, the incense burner had struck the chief of Tupi village on the forehead, sending him tumbling into the wall, where he then collapsed, immobile. Underhanded villain! But only the wind answered him. The villain, gripping the bloodied censer, said not a word. The person you're looking for is in the barren mountains beyond this village. Go seek your death there. But the villain had departed, and all that remained to answer him was the rustling of the wind and the crackling of wild flames. Thank you for the lurk, Dino. Hi. Welcome in. Welcome. Volume 4. Jin the 72nd waited till the rainbow had dispersed before setting off once from the Tupi village toward the barren mountains. Ancient legend held that these barren mountains had been brought into being by slices from the Celestial Emperor's blade, and thus were incredibly hard to scale. Folk tales also held that they were called barren, for they had soaked up the tears of the Earth Mother, and thus had become bitterly salty lands where nothing grew. The barren mountains had once been mined for gold and gems, but the mines had all been ruined in an earthquake, their workers buried within. No one tried ever again to recreate the facilities to mine the mountain's bounty, and its caverns were infested with wicked beasts and bandits. And among these evils hidden in the mountains was Jin the 72nd's nemesis. The swordsman's shoulders shivered, and his gait hesitant, for the wounds he had been given in the battle against the chief of Tupi village hindered him still. He knew that many pairs of eyes stared out at him from beneath the withered rocks, and the breath of beasts who had caught the scent of his blood was all around. Long years of bloodshed had honed Jin the 72nd's senses to their limit. He sensed that the lifeless mountains were in fact a giant death trap. Bandits and villains lay in wait for him to enter some narrow grotto, or squeeze into a tiny gorge, or pass by a collapsed mineshaft. Then they would set upon him in the darkness with knives and finish him. But from the looks of things now, the steep mountains now looked like they might be enough to kill Jin the 72nd. The swordsman limped with every step he took, and the road was small and treacherous. Every so often gravel would slip loose beneath his feet. At the same time, upon a cliff twisted about with sinuous dead trees, two figures squinted as they observed the tiny wanderer. "He has been worse for wear since he departed from the mountain's base. If we but leave him to the treacherous trek, he will surely fall into the abyss below," so said a bone-thin old crone. She glanced to her side, icy death in her jade blue eyes, sharp as a viper, hidden in a rocky cleft. "Not so," she turned to face the booming voice of a corpulent old man. "He slew 362 at Tupi village, and even cooked the dog at the gate for stew." "Though he may have been badly oh wait, no, that's the same person. "Though he may have been badly wounded by the village chief to the point where he can barely move, we should still be aware of him." The old woman vanished into the withered forest with a displeased noise. The old man watched a while longer as the lame swordsman stopped for a moment more, before patting his large belly and slowly departing. Not a single withered tree or blade of dying grass was touched as he did. Then suddenly the sky turned dark with a gathering storm cloud, and mordant rain again began to fall lightly. In the mountain rain, the wounded Jin the 72nd leaned on his sword like a crutch and struggled forward. But the chilling cold and the loss of blood was too much for him to bear, and he fell upon the gravel and barren stone. Just as the darkness took him, he caught a glimpse of the billowing hem of azure blue skirts. He could have sworn he'd seen that sight before. Not being gassy right before the last word. Hello? You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. That was just a hiccup. Oh man, this is another long one. What in God's name? Dude, why are all of these so long? Okay, let's go. New Chronicles of the Sixth Kitsune. Prologue. Stories relating to memory always seem to have to do with those moments when you gain something and lose it straight away. If you're wondering how I came to write about it, it's hardly the most exciting story. That night, I was drinking and killing time at the Uyu restaurant when I happened to run into an old friend that I hadn't seen in forever. I don't know when she arrived, but at some point I suddenly noticed her sitting there in one of the booths.
My, now who could this be, sitting there in such a good mood, yet drinking all alone? Since she was asking, I thought I might as well mutter something in response. The best liquor comes at the highest price, and sometimes that price is waiting alone. I've definitely heard that one before. Still as boring as ever, I see. Thus remarked the chief editor as she stood there with a liquor cup in hand, looking very enthusiastic about the prospect of having a drink or two. Why not earn yourself some drinking money? It's not like you've got anything better to do. Tonight, though, the drinks are on me. She laughed and reiterated this a couple more times. You're back. I watched as the evening breeze brought a few flower petals from the sacred sakura and landed them in her cup, making ripples that disturbed the reflection of the moon. Overcome by a strong sense of déjà vu, my mouth took it upon itself to proceed with an utterance that would prove to be something of an embarrassment to my brain. You're drunk. She didn't look very happy to hear that, and retorted with a firm and defiant tone in her voice, but her countenance quickly changed again, and she placed her cup down on the table and let out a sigh. I wasn't even born yet when she left, and I was still in my youth back then. You must be the only one still able to recite the stories she once told. And just like that, I found myself roped into writing for the Yai publishing house one more time. It's quite amusing now I think about it. To my faithful readers, please don't be upset. This should not be taken to mean that I am committed to no longer writing save for when it becomes a selfish indulgence. After all, there's some great liquor that's soon to decrease in price, and I have to make sure I'm prepared. Besides, I have to pay the chief editor back for the wine she so kindly bought me that night. Is he taking a break? Nope. I gotta get through this. Forgive... Oh, hold on. Alright, so the prologue was volume 1, thank God. Forgive my garrulousness, but there are still some things to get out of the way before the story begins in earnest. Why the new Chronicles of the Six Kitsune? Naturally, the word new here presumes the existence of an old. This book is a slightly revised edition of Urukusai's Chronicles of the Six Kitsune, which enjoyed a period of great popularity 500 years ago. I possess but limited writing skills and can only hope that Urukusai and my other readers will peruse these pages with forgiving eyes. Urukusai was already famous when I was but a small child. By that time, the Saigu had already taken great interest in Urukusai's literary abilities and expertise on tea, making Urukusai one of the most cultured and sophisticated of all the kitsune. Unfortunately, that is all in the past now. Urukusai made a grave mistake and had to leave. It has now been 500 years since then. Hi, Frozen Shade. Good yarn. Good evening, Mama. Without further ado, the story of the new Chronicles of the Six Kitsune begins on the towering Mount Yogo. Legend has it that in time of the great Kitsune Hakushin, she had 6 apprentices. All were greatly skilled in magic and in shape-shifting. Day to day, they were tasked with assisting their matriarch, Hakushin, in managing the shrine and defending Mount Yogo. The eldest of the 6 was Itaru the Black Fox, who, unlike most other females, was built as broad as a bear and as strong as a tiger. She also had a wild and unruly personality. One day, she was being drunk and disorderly in the main hall of the shrine, and destroyed a shintai that represented the shogun. Incensed, Hakushin banished Itaru from the mountain for a period of much-needed self-reflection. But Black Fox Itaru was all too happy to leave the mountain behind. She put Hakushin's warnings completely out of her mind, found a bottle of good quality liquor, and headed straight for the nearest village to look for trouble. Continuing where we left off, Black Fox Itaru was on her way to the village looking for trouble when she saw 2 women standing at the side of the road dressed like lumberjacks. Both had 3 blades hanging from their waist, a 7-foot-long nodachi, a kodachi, and wakizachi. They were armed to the teeth, and they weren't hiding it. As her big, bulky silhouette approached from a distance, the ground shook and dust went flying with each step she took, all of which put the 2 women on high alert. They grasped the hilts of their blades, ready to draw them at any moment, and asked in unison,
Who are you? Are you a yokai? The silhouette answered, That's exactly what I am. Without hesitation, the two women immediately drew their swords and stepped forward, intending to slay Itaru. But this one yokai they had underestimated. She dodged their attacks in a single step, grabbed their wrists and twisted them as she turned sideways, sending both of their 7-foot-long nodachi clattering to the ground. Alarmed by the pain, the two reached for their kodachi, but they were too late. Itaru sent one of them flying to the ground with an almighty slap, while placing the other into a headlock. Then she grabbed the one under her arm by the scruff of the neck and lifted her up into the air, placing her foot on the other's chest to pin her to the ground. Final Fantasy Steve, thank you for the follow. Welcome to HQ, Nakaipistene. Welcome on in. Welcome. Hopefully this is cozy and soothing, Titi. Thank you. If you need to fall asleep, feel free. Hi Steve, welcome in. Hi. Good yarn. We're just doing a little story time, reading, little ASMR. The twin Oni of Tokaku? Looks like neither of you have learned anything from the beating I gave you last year for harassing the villagers. When the two bandits heard this, they panicked and started begging for their lives. Black Fox Itaru threw them to the ground and began to speak. Fair enough. Well, I'm a masterless yokai now that I've been banished from the mountain by Hakushin. Why don't the two of you join me? We'll go around helping those in need. It'll be fun. Oops. Continuing where we left off, Black Fox Itaru successfully tamed the bandit duo, the twin Oni of Tokaku, and the three set off on their journey of chivalry. Aw, you think I should start a podcast? I was part of the Hills raid. Ah, welcome. Actually, it wasn't Hills that raided. It was Teeny. Sorry, it was Teeny. I was like, Minnie? Teeny. Welcome in. I think Hills raided Teeny, and then Teeny trained over to us. Teeny. Sorry. I'm sorry. I had the right the right what is it? It was the right synonym. Hills to Teeny to here. Yeah. And we'll probably train off to someone else too, do an ASMR. After striking up a conversation, they learned that the mother's surname was Yozan, the daughter's given name was Yui, and that both were musicians from the distant Seirei Island visiting Inazuma City to join in the festival. On their way, they had been scammed by Lavender Melon Seller from the village. He had offered them a few melons to quench their thirst, ostensibly out of the goodness of his heart, before they insisted that they purchase more of his melons at an extortionate price. But touring musicians aren't exactly wealthy, and they couldn't afford to spend the entirety of their budget for the return trip on overpriced melons. The twin Oni of Tokaku are an impulsive pair. Upon hearing the story, they instantly began fuming with rage, and unanimously decided that they needed to teach this dishonest merchant a lesson by cutting him into pieces. But Black Fox Itaru had another idea, and spoke up to stop the two sisters. Enough! I know what to do. She comforted the mother and daughter. You two have nothing to worry about. Just watch. I'll talk to the merchant, and he'll come to his senses. Itaru marched off to look for the dishonest merchant. Into pieces? Looks like it. But that's not what Itaru has in mind. I fell asleep. Hopefully you can fall back asleep, Steve. If you need some winks, don't be afraid to catch them. Thank you for the hydrated tea. Continuing where we left off, Black Fox Itaru marched off to talk some sense into the dishonest merchant. The lavender melon merchant Dozaemon was once a samurai, but with peace having prevailed in Inazuma for so long, his sword skills offered no further use, so he became a merchant in the village instead. After learning a few swindler's tricks such as extortion, intimidation, and judicious use of his fierce appearance, no one dared confront him no matter how much he took from them. Over time, he had become one of the wealthiest people in the village. On this day, Dozaemon was relaxing in front of the shop, when all of a sudden he saw dust flying and felt the ground shaking. Then, a shadow large enough to dwarf his shop slowly fell over his face. "Hey, I want to buy some melons." Dozaemon narrowed his eyes and sized up the muscular, fierce-looking, and ill-mannered customers standing over him like an executioner, before finally realizing, "Oh, she's a woman. How many?" Apparently this customer was in no hurry to answer. She was too busy admiring his wakizashi, which was lying on the chopping board. "Mighty fine blade you got there."
You got that right. I'll have you know I'm from a samurai clan. It's only fitting that I keep an heirloom nearby.
Dozaemon went along with the conversation, unaware of where it was heading.
Shame it's wasted on chopping melons.
I'll be lurking while I do my winter bless. Can we just hold in our pee for once during my stream, please? Maybe? Anyway, have a good lurk, Tab Bunny. Have a good lurk. Can I make a dirty joke? You can do whatever you want, so long as, I don't know, it doesn't ruin the mood. Usually, you shouldn't have to ask to make a dirty joke. Dirty jokes just happen. If it's in good taste, if it's on topic, you're obviously willing to, or you're obviously entitled to do whatever you want. Say whatever you want. Thank you, TT. Shame. It's wasted on chopping melons. Dozaemon sensed that this was an intentionally barbed remark, and he did not look happy about it.
What's with all the chit-chat? Are you buying melons or not?
Oh, I am.
Itaru smiled at Dozaemon as a gesture of apology.
4 pounds of chopped lavender melon, without the skins, please.
Dozaemon's suspicions were aroused, but he did not question the request. He promptly chopped 4 pounds of melon and placed it on the scale.
Hey, how come your scale's all wonky?
Dozaemon grasped his blade the moment Itaru said this.
Well, isn't that something? This scale's got a mind of its own.
Glad you're so amused, but it's time to pay up now.
Dozaemon could no longer hold back his anger. The time for pleasantries was over. It was time to talk sense.
I don't have a problem with paying you what you're due. I'm just not sure you'd be able to take it.
Oh, don't worry. I'll take whatever you've got to give.
You sure about that?
Try me.
Suddenly, Itaru yelled,
"Take this!"
and threw a bag full of mora directly at Dozaemon's face. Dozaemon didn't react in time, and took the full force of the impact square on the nose. He fell backwards onto the ground as his precious wakizashi went flying from his hand and fell beside him. On closer inspection, his nose had been squashed completely flat by the bag of mora. It looked just like the kind of pouch one might use to store a pipe, only without the pipe inside. Itaru walked over and pressed her foot down on the dishonest merchant's chest. Without a word, she hit Dozaemon so hard it felt like a Liyue martial arts tournament was being hosted on his face. With great difficulty, he fought to get back on his feet, but just as he had stood up and grabbed his blade, Itaru noticed and landed another ferocious blow to his head. This time, it hit so hard that a pair of tanuki ears popped out in response. He began to beg for mercy. Itaru burst out laughing at the sight in front of her. So the merchant is a yokai in disguise, and a filthy tanuki at that. Wait a minute. Teeny? Is Teeny still lurking? Is that Teeny? Bad merchant. Itaru promptly confiscated the tanuki's stolen wakizachi, distributed most of its ill-gotten wealth among the villagers, and handed the rest to the mother and daughter who had fallen victim to its scheme earlier. Itaru spared the tanuki's life, albeit not without some reluctance, and continued on her way. I'm so cold. I'm booking. I tried to warm you up just now. Volume 6. We shall bring the anecdotes of Black Fox Itaru to a close now. Please forgive me for nagging, but I have some old manners I wish to comment on. Now, it is no longer well known how exactly Urukusai angered Lady Saigu at that time. However, Lady Yae did offer to tell me some snippets of the history she experienced after having between 2 and 8 drinks. This is a novel, of course, so I naturally would like to turn these words into a story of what history has not been recorded. When the Kitsune Saigu departed from the Hakushin lands to take up her post at the Grand Narukami Shrine, Lady Yae still had yet to be born. As such, her early years were filled with stories and tales about Saigu, and she loved and respected her greatly. This is also why Lady Yae would eventually come to the Grand Narukami Shrine herself, after embarking on her own travels. Due to their closeness by blood, Lady Saigu doted upon Lady Yae quite a bit, though Lady Yae speaks as little as possible about those times as she may nowadays. And while I as a novelist write to entertain, I shall refrain from revealing too much about Lady Yae's past, lest I suffer under the editor-in-chief's mighty pen. But back to Urukusai. It is no longer clear how Urukusai angered Lady Saigu back in the day, but it is known that his deeds may have had some connection to the later incursion of the Abyss. However, after Urakusai had been driven out, the Kitsune Saigu would no longer dwell at the Grand Narukami Shrine, but would instead set up permanent residence at the Tenshukaku. Is Lady Saigu the Fox Lady before Lady Yae? I think so, yes. The former Miko, the head Miko. Or the head shrine maiden. Or the Guji, yes, the Guji, Lady Guji. Mochi, happy early holidays. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Hi, welcome in. A disaster that will engulf heaven and earth is coming. My duty is to defend the people and protect our lord, and so I must go to the shogun's side. When Lady Saigu departed the second time, Lady Yae was but a young girl. The person she had pursued all this time now left her again. It was not until the untimely disaster swept across the archipelago that we understood the meaning of Lady Saigu's words. But it was too late, and things had not turned out as we would have wished. This time, Lady Saigu left a third time. This time, she departed forever. 5 centuries may seem long to mortals, but the joys and sorrows left by the things that happened during that time, whether to fleeting existences or enduring ones, are not easy to erase. She was also the one who was in the Raiden Shogun teaser. Yeah, yes. That's right. She's one of the friends that Raiden lost in the Calamity. After the Kain Ryan incident, and I think I think it had something to do with Irminsul and the knowledge, the forbidden knowledge or whatever. I think that's all connected. The forbidden knowledge being known, or like the yokai finding out about or being exposed to the forbidden knowledge. and they all went crazy. Same with the Yaksha. Same with how the Yaksha all went mad. I think that's also something to do with the forbidden knowledge. Because there's a pattern, right? There's a pattern across all the continents, or all of the regions, where a lot of the all-powerful entities probably came in contact with the forbidden knowledge during the Kain Ryan disaster. Yeah, I think the forbidden knowledge corrupted things outside of Sumeru, because in this recent minor spoilers, but in this recent Archon quest, it's Archon quests plural, because this was said in the Nahida focused Archon quest. It was said that Irminsul affects Teyvat. It's not just for Sumeru. It's a like source of knowledge for all of Teyvat. So yeah, I think it's all connected. How long is this? It's alright. Makes sense because the ley lines are over here, right? Right? Yeah. I think it all adds up. Big brain. Alright, a legend of sword. Even if Emperor Shur's ambitions are realized, how will anybody benefit from it? Secretary of Defense Farenji stared out of the window into space as the galaxies and stars shone gently upon her face, their pale white glow flowing softly and slowly down each strand of her hair. She couldn't help but think back to the first time she looked out at this ocean of stars through this very window, but she no longer remembered the sense of awe she felt back then. Even her homeland, now hundreds of light years away, had long since become faded and distorted in her memories, whenever they surfaced in her dreams. Forgive me for speaking out of place, Your Highness, but this war has been dragging on for far too long. We've battled through countless constellations, wiped out tens of millions of lives in all sorts of devious ways, and made ourselves viceroys and envoys of every obscure constellation we came across, all in an effort to make Emperor Shur's dreams a reality. But what has his grand vision brought us? One misfortune after another, and an ever-growing number of enemies. They're in every corner of the galaxy now. It's just a matter of time before they swallow us up. My brother's vision is for an empire that will rule for all eternity, one where there is no fear, and where people do not lack for anything. The fate of the many will no longer be dictated by the few. No one will enjoy a higher status than anyone else, and even incompetence will no longer be seen as a crime. And so, it is inevitable that those who cannot comprehend this grand vision are doomed to be swept aside. This is their fate. Princess Gopatha shook her head and spoke with a gentle yet cold tone. It seemed as if the intergalactic anti-guerrilla war had robbed her of more than just one of her eyes and one of her arms, because when Ferangis looked at her, she did not see the joyous young woman she once knew. I trust in brother's decision. He would not act out of mere self-interest, so please, even though it is you, don't say such things again in the future. Don't speak words that sow doubt. Genshin lore. This isn't Genshin lore. I think this is Yae writing a story about, like, sci-fi. There's some sort of weird sci-fi story happening right now. Unless you were typing or referencing what we were talking about just a second ago. Volume 2. Surely, even an armada consisting entirely of Yazata-class warships, would have a tough job making a dent in a defense as watertight as this one. Admiral Geldefried's overconfidence in the greatest technological marvel of the Empire meant that she was completely unaware that the rebels were, at that very moment, closing in on the fatal weakness of their base, the mighty star fortress, Anusharvan, designed personally for Princess Gopatha, and named by Emperor Shur, was now nothing more than a fragile egg before the rebel fleet, and Mother Hen was always away from the nest. Bestinu deftly navigated the lash clipper through the oh my god, all this lore dumping, through the intricate and winding ventilation system, weaving between jets of poisonous gas and elemental clouds shooting out from holes in the walls, while trying to shake the automatic mechanical sentries on his tail. His eyes and ears filled with blood, and the scene before him merged into a continuous blur of color and light as the clipper shot ahead at breathtaking speed. Now's my chance. So thought Bastinu to himself as the propulsion system's energy core came gradually into view. It's time, so thought Admiral Geldefried to herself as she gazed at the flashing sphere of light in the planet's orbit. Then she gave the order to launch an indiscriminate assault on the planet. Then, Bastinu launched a fatal attack on the fortress core. Oh, what I would give to see the look on Princess Gopatha's face right now. So thought both to themselves separately, but identically, in that brief moment. Volume 3, 10 years earlier, 25 light-years away. With the nation under the rule of the Suruga shogunate, cries of anguish filled the streets as the people suffered bitterly. At that time, the Suruga shogunate was led by the Sei-tai shogun Imagawa Uchizane. 4 years prior, after finally beheading Demon King Danjoju, the Tai shogun's own reign of terror began. It was in this time and place that our free and unrestrained swordsmaster wandered the land. His name was Bitsu Kyubei, and he was known to the people as the Shinkuro, the Vigilant. There's so many names. Interesting name. Interesting indeed. Bitsu Kyubei was not a ronin as such. It is said that he was once the most trusted strategist for His Excellency, the Tai shogun, until one day he was framed by a rival. Given the shogun's paranoid nature, this left him with no choice but to flee the shogunate and escape into the wilderness. Today, Shinkuro was standing on a mountainside gazing into the distance. But what was the object of his gaze? Was it the vast expanse of open fields? No. Was it the mountain range in the distance? No. Was it the road stretching out ahead of him? Yes. Although that's not the full story. So what was the object of Shinkuro's gaze exactly? The farmers who had paid the swordsman in rice for its services cowered in fear, too afraid to ask. It seems that only the silent swordsman himself knew the answer to this question. Volume 4. The fall is here. The season of harvest is almost upon us. The one speaking was Saito Onisa. Wow. 4? 4 so soon? For real, what the heck? Oopsie. Oopsie, thank you for 4 months. Thank you. Arigato. Thank you. Welcome back. Or thank you for prolonging your contract to 4 months. And welcome back to the Special Forces. I'm out of tea. Water time. Ninjas. There are ninjas in this sci-fi? Ninjas are dangerous individuals, experts in self-preservation and in avoiding danger. In times of war and upheaval, they work as mercenaries for the daimyo. They are born in war, and they draw their strength from the powerful masters they work for. Such is the path of the ninja. But it is also path of the ninja to become displaced and disillusioned at the end of the war, or to meet their ruin as soon as they lose their powerful backing. So when the Imagawa Tai shogun finally united the country, the ninjas became like hunting dogs that had outlived their purpose. Most were either executed or drafted into the shogun's army, but some got away, disappeared into the wilderness, and turned to a life of banditry. That is precisely Saito Onisa's story. There's no rush. Let's wait for the villagers to finish harvesting the grain for us. The person speaking this time was called Yonemata Tasuke. Bandits are either samurai who had grown weary of the warrior's way of farmers fighting to stay alive. They too are born in war. They draw their strength from cunning, and this emboldens them to run amok across the land. But when the war ends and peace is restored, the source of their power evaporates. Like mayflies, they disappear as quickly as they come. Yonemata Tasuke was born into an ordinary farming family, only turning to banditry in his 40s. Yet, despite his age, he took to it with great aplomb, and quickly established himself as a ringleader. The most terrible of all bandits are those who have themselves suffered terribly under an oppressive hand. Then we burn everything, leave no survivors. His was the voice of an age of upheaval. Volume 5. The terrain of Asada village was shaped like a crescent moon. Shinkuro had noticed this the very first time he set a foot in the marshland. If he could organize enough villagers to lie in ambush upon the mountain ridge, shielding themselves with the terrain and attacking downwards from the high ground, defeating the enemy would be easy, especially since the bandits would be weary from their journey. Furthermore, the villagers outnumbered the bandits, so surrounding them on all sides would not be difficult to pull off. But the biggest obstacle to this plan was the villagers themselves. A small group of easy targets would be needed as bait to lure the bandits into the valley. But after enduring an age of despotic rule, only to continue to suffer under the tyrannical and extortionate taxation practices of the present shogunate, the mentality of individual self-preservation was deeply ingrained. How was he going to convince anybody to volunteer to be the bait and sacrifice themselves for everyone else's benefit? Good night, Bunny. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I hope you have a good weekend. Good night, good night, good night. Sleep tight. Bye boy. There was one other problem too. In wartime, a samurai army finding themselves in this situation would be certain to use fire to make their ambush more effective. The wind from the mountain would make the fire spread quickly, trapping the enemy in the valley and dealing them a devastating blow. But this was a farming community seeking to keep their land and village safe. There was nothing he could say to convince them that setting their houses and grain preserves on fire was anything close to a good idea. This was completely understandable, of course, but the fact that there was an even worse fate would await them should they fail to take the bandits down. Shinkuro silently sat down and continued to ponder the conundrum. Captain, forgive my bluntness, but you were sleeping the whole time during that meeting earlier. So you noticed. Oh, you were sitting quite upright, but I've seen this happen too many times before. Captain, I'd ask you to use your training as a martial artist in this manner. A written report isn't going to save you if the fleet commander hears of this. So Mahasti said, but in truth, no one had ever dared to touch his superior. Amidst the delicate balance that Allied Fleet Command maintained internally, his middle-aged captain and superior, Bichu Kyubei, also known as Shinkuro, now also known as Semimaru, so many names, what is it, Game of Thrones? Using some truly lame pronunciation, was the very same person who everyone was trying to court to their side, and the one who most likely to break this deadlock. This was a whole decade ago now. Shinkuro thought to himself quietly. That one victorious battle at Asada village, on reflection, had been nothing but a minor test of Shinkuro's military prowess. But for the parties involved, this could be called the beginning of the disaster. As expected, the Tai shogun would not permit such a talented person to wander in the wild. Not long after, Shinkuro would be blinded in both eyes and thrown into jail. This state of affairs lasted until 5 years ago, when the Imagawa clan was defeated by an allied army formed under the Ume Daimyo clan, beheading its leader in the process. From then, the nation and its people would finally experience a period of peace. That was what the new Seitai shogun told Shinkuro personally, and while the latter was in prison. Shinkuro had never in his life seen the common folk able to work and live in peace, and this strange Tai shogun was likely no saint either. The general amnesty was something that simply had to be done to win the people over, and he reminisced. Shinkuro could not help but sigh. Oh, as he reminisced, Shinkuro could not help but sigh. Whether in the past or now, people like him would always be at the center of the vortex, whether they liked it or not. As far as this country is concerned, people like me are traitors,
and I suppose that is also the case in this vast universe. The shogun looked at the sitting Shinkuro and spoke in an indifferent voice. The imperial tax is no longer something that this tiny planet in a corner of the universe can take up, and someone of your ability should be free to flex it amidst the stars. Your clan and given names were taken by the cretin Imagawa, yes, but abandon that past. From now on you shall be known as the Semimaru. Yes, someone who no longer had a past, someone whose eyes could no longer behold the many wonders of this universe. Now its vastness opened before him. I did not understand a single ounce of that story. Oh, please. Okay, it's not that long. Phew. Okay, not that much more left. Princess Mina of the Fallen Nation, Volume 1. 13 years of peace were had before the era of warring states began. The nations of the north, furthest from the epicenter, at last became inflected by the spirit of age, hurling themselves into the flames of war. As it is with most wars, a loser would be decided after a fierce conflict. Their cities were cast down into flaming rubble, and their nobles and their supporters fled into the mountains. Such a backdrop is hardly anything special. But into that inflection point of an era strode a wandering samurai, dressed in luxurious robes. No, rather than luxurious, perhaps it was more accurate to say that these robes were... Yes, that's right. It was a man dressed as a woman. In contrast, this samurai was accompanied by a petite girl wearing a haori that was large to the point of incredulity. In any case, they were a suspicious pair for sure. However, the two of them sauntered up to the checkpoint at the foot of the mountains as if unaware of this fact. Of course, they were immediately stopped by the ashigaru guarding the checkpoint. "Who are you?" This was a standard thing to say, but it was also an honest question in this case. As you can see, we're just ordinary passers-by. It was a reply with no powers of persuasion, but the ashigaru who asked almost seemed to hesitate at the sheer lack of doubt in the samurai's tone. Could I ask you to come with me anyway?" That didn't work, huh? The samurai almost seemed disappointed. Suddenly, 3 ashigaru fell to the ground. "You planned to do this all along, didn't you? You horrible knave," the girl grumbled softly from the rear. Looks like Yaemiko sucks at writing. Another point against her. She's just hot. I don't care for her. Oh my god, caveman. Caveman. I like that she treats Ganyu as her senpai. Like Ganyu is Yai's senpai, and like not yokai, but you know, like an adeptus sort of senpai, and it's cute. No, I'm pretty sure Yai's the chief editor, so she's the one that okays all these stories. This one is also a Yai Publishing House story. Volume 2. That's not it. These words burst out suddenly. In the nameless mountain shrine, the black-haired princess sat there, her face flickering between light and shadow in the face of flame. "What do you mean, that's not it?" came the reply, almost as a conditioned reflex. "What I mean, you dumb samurai, don't you have any thoughts concerning me, the princess who brings destruction?" "Thoughts? Well, I think you're quite the character for one." "I don't mean thoughts in that sense." Princess Mina sounded quite exasperated now. "I mean with regards to saving me." "Strictly speaking, I didn't save you," the samurai corrected. "At that time, you ordered me to take you away in your capacity as princess. In that sense, you saved yourself." "Oh, is that how you see it?" An expected reply. Well, the samurai thought, it had been worth a shot trying to dodge responsibility. Party Rocker, thank you for the follow. Welcome to HQ. Nakayokishite. Thoughts? In any case, this princess who brings destruction, nonsense. Isn't that just an excuse for making war? The samurai's lackadaisical tone shifted. Also, the samurai turned around, void-like eyes now aflame. Destroying the world is an utterly stupid concept. You'll understand soon enough. Oops. People call war hell, but most are just describing it as such. But what appeared before their eyes could only truly be called hell. The desolate earth, the withered trees, and people like the shambling dead. It was like life had been wrung from this place. Huh. The samurai picked a husk of a leaf. It crumbled into dust immediately, floating away on the wind. It seems like the life has literally been wrung out from this place. Conflict had raged around the capital for over a century now. After the first decade, the resources and riches of the various warring nations had already been all but spent. The thing that had sustained the bloodshed for so long was something known as Nakura's Hex. Nakura's Hex was a terrifying sorcery that sucked the life of all living things and the land itself dry, giving it unto power samurai and feeding the war effort. And those who used such depraved magics to dominate the land were scoundrels known as the Nakura Daimyo. The daimyo vied for dominance, but no matter who won, the earth would be further robbed of life. This was the true face of the war that had raged for nearly a century now. And the ones who created the hex are the Onmyoji who dwell in the Sky Tower, center of the world. Ignoring Princess Mina, who had wavered at the sight before her eyes, the samurai continued faintly. "O princess who brings destruction, has this world not already been destroyed?" The nation of Kogami, a lifeless wasteland as far as the eye can see. The barren fields stretched out into the horizon around a large sand dune where the two samurai faced each other. Hi Maggie, good yarn. Good evening. Good mama. One of them is our protagonist, and shall be named the Green Samurai to distinguish him from his compatriot. The other is a new arrival to the story. We shall name him the Pale Samurai. If this were a swashbuckler's tale, then they would have already taken up battle stances. But the two were not here to have a decisive match. They were just facing each other. "Come back from hell, did you?" the Pale Samurai said. The weight of time, unknowable lying between them. Nostalgic, isn't it? The Green Samurai seemed quite happy. "I don't get nostalgic over such things." The Pale Samurai interrupted rudely. The Green Samurai closed their eyes as if sinking into the abyss of the past. This will all end as long as we defeat the evil overlords. That's what we believed then. Naive fools that we were. That was just the beginning of the nightmare. The 13 samurai banded together to defeat the Nakura Daimyo, who had been destroying this nation. But Kogami did not revive with the daimyo gone, and the life force of the land continued to bleed anyway. Not only that, Kogami, now bereft of its ruler, became a paradise of those who would plunder it. The heroes who had defeated the wicked overlord could not protect it in the end either. In the end, only two escaped. Hey now, cut the reminiscence out for a second. We've got things to settle, don't we? 2 days before Christmas and I just got COVID. Oh my god, no. You know, all of Spy Family is sick right now. I am still safe from being sick, but I spent a lot of time around them nursing them today. So the Spy Family is down for the count for Christmas probably. Everyone has the flu. I hope I don't get it. Yeah, everyone. I'm hoping I don't get it. I don't want to get sick for Christmas. That would suck. I want to cook so many foods. I have so much food to cook. Volume 5. I want to save this world. I want to save this world. Princess Mina said. I've told you this many times before. There's no such thing as I've told you this many times before. There's no such thing as saving this world. Now, this hasn't stopped idiots like me from trying, of course, but this world, it's doomed. I don't care. I'm a princess. Aren't princesses born to save the world? No. I've never heard of any story that goes like that. And last I heard, you were the princess who brings destruction. Last I heard, someone said that this destruction is actually the birth of new life. Well, I don't know where you heard that one, but such beliefs are old hat by now. If you wrote this drivel nowadays, people would chuck it out into the nation of Tokoyo, and that would be for the best. The princess covers her ears. At the top of the sky tower, the samurai and princess argued in futility, as if no one was watching. Well, I say that, but in fact there were quite a few other folks about dressed in the garb of Onmyoji. So, as you all know, Nakura's hex was originally created to preserve the vitality of a world that was slowly declining. As if unable to stand the conversation, and also to push the plot forward in their role as an NPC, the oldest Onmyoji finally spoke. What? Is this book self-aware? This book just called a random character an NPC. Wait a minute. Is Yai aware that she's in a game? Hold the fuck up. I hope they feel better soon. I know, me too, Roland Shade. Me too. And that which can utilize this stored vitality. NPC stands for non-playable character, which is what you address, like, characters like, I don't know, Timaeus at the alchemy table. There are a bunch of NPCs, right, in video games, like characters you can't play but you interact with. But it's a strictly video game term. So them saying an NPC for some random person in a book published in-game as a quote, it's in a quote, is something that's very, like, fourth wall breaking. Oh, okay, I thought you were saying what to what's an NPC. So could you get these thoughts out of your head? The samurai didn't seem to have heard the wizened Onmyoji at all. How long was this farce going to continue? So was the world saved? At the story's end, the samurai walked amidst the boundless desert. The Sky Tower's plans were probably complete by now, and vitality remained in the world, had all been stored up. Atika, NPC means non-playable character. The queen is dead. The queen is dead. At the story's end, there was no knowing if a new world had been created, but this one was most certainly done for. What could one expect of a princess destined to destroy the world? Might as well destroy another world if it exists. The fuck was that sound? What the hell was that? That was a weird sound. Another spider. Shut up! Shut up! I kill you. It wasn't another spider. The remainder of this book concerns the story's setting, and features in large part the various wicked overlords and monstrous creatures that did not appear in the main narrative of the novel. Okay. Last one. Wow, one volume. Last one. I think we'll probably. I am starving. So I need to probably wrap this stream up. I'll get to reading all the archived, like, stuff, all that stuff, not the books, but the stuff, on another date. But we'll do that next year. Okay. Flowers for Princess Fischl, Volume 1. Phantasmagoria. The dream lives on. Such words surely must appear the midst of every tale, and they are largely the words of the Kaiserin of the Immernachtrike. This surely is not the enigma that concerns the greatest majority of readers, but we must still start here nonetheless. Osvaldo Hranovens, the mighty lord of the Nachtraben, if Fischl's strength in battle might be considered a 10, and the beasts of the world should have an average of 15, then Osvaldo's strength may be considered 13. His great power was on display when he destroyed Damerung in Volume 1. That said, the Nachtvorhang in itself, the nemesis of Damerung anyway. As for the feelings that Osvaldo holds towards Fischl, Mr. 9 does not believe in it to be romance, but more likely a form of imprinting common to bird kindred. Editor-in-Chief's note. Regardless of what the author says, dear readers, you are free to interpret the personal relationships of the characters from Immernachtrike however you like. Is this the last stream of the week? Yup. No ASMR, nope. No ASMR after this. Like I said last night, that was the last ASMR. Technically. I mean, I know this isn't really... I mean, this is kind of ASMR. But yeah, that was the last ASMR last night. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry, and you're making me do squats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hey, so. Alright. Whew. Aside from this, thank you for the squats, by the way. The title, Prince Nachtraben, is not a particularly high-flown one.
Considering that the Night Ravens have always been known for being conspirators and bearers of curses, Osvaldo likely insisted on this title, for how could a mere king of the night call himself thus before the Imternecken Trike?
Can you stand from your chair anymore? Can I stand? Oh no, I can still stand. I'm fine. Squats don't actually hurt me that much. I'm not that old. I'm not that old and I'm not that out of shape.
Beast of the Wild, Gesamtakt. In certain probabilities, this is the beast of the world that the Immernachtrike would be faced with in this cycle. Its battle strength is around 30. In a distant causality, if the philosopher Zarathustra was not chosen, then the opera writer would have gained victory in the contest over the riddle of the world. Once Gesamtakt takes the stage in the opera theater of the apocalypse, many more beasts of the world that reside within the center of the universe will inexorably begin to appear as well. In the final volume, The Weakness of the Beast of the World, Saint of Seven Tears,
whose combat strength was 10, and therefore equal to Fischl, was quite out of the ordinary, and the saint merely wept for Zarathustra at first, a choice that seemed undeserving of any blame. Both Zarathustra and the musician exist to give praise unto the Prinzessin der Farunteilung. One proclaims the agony she suffers in her heart, while the other proclaims the grandeur of her travails. The Prinzessin, of course, will not favor the latter, for of such things would she be ashamed. Sommernachtgarten. It is said that those who are highly skilled in the magical arts will possess their own unique domains of consciousness. Their loves, hatreds, yearnings, jealousies, adherence, and passions of the soul will be stored here, in the fictional tale of other novels. This space is called Summerland. The Sommernachtgarten of the Prinzessin is something in this vein. That this concept was never well explored in the end remains quite the pity. The suspected eternal return. Quite a few of the finer points of the tale have caused people to wonder if the Kaiserin of the Immernachtrike once experienced all that Fischl has. Fischl's father is undoubtedly not a mere shade. He is majestic and mighty, and helps Fischl to dispel her confusions. As for Fischl's mother, the Kaiserin, Her actions and deeds show her to have quite an interesting character indeed. But she will only speak one line, which is, as was noted earlier in this text, the dream lives on. In the final volume, Fischl's mother had already faded away, and so this volume naturally did not have this preceding line. But as the universe entered its denouncement, and all things within it flowed into the Immernakentrek, she spoke another line of an enigmatic intent. Find meaning somewhere, the night deepens. Find meaning somewhere, the night deepens, but the dream lives on. Dear readers, I hope that you will all find happiness in this world where the sun still rises each day. Collection of questions and answers. Question. Dear Mr. Nine, may I ask what the relationship between the Celestial Emperor's daughter in Legend of the Shattered Halberd and Fischl von Luschloss Narfidart is? Answer. I felt that the tragedy that unfolded toward the end of Volume 5 of Legend of the Shattered Halberd was due to the male protagonist and the Celestial Emperor's daughter's attraction to him. As such, I wanted to write a Prinzessin der Verunteilung who had no need for a male protagonist. This was the scaffold that would come to be flowers for Princess Fischl. Eventually, though, I did write the 6th volume of Halberd, which rescued the ending. There was probably some cross-pollination in the process of writing 2 series at the same time, but I was personally quite pleased with the result. In a fight between Mir's dad, Khan the Asura and his sword Leviathan, at full strength versus Garsam Konstwerk, who would come out on top, I originally intended to refuse to answer this question, but the editor-in-chief said that she'd axe my next manuscript if I didn't, in which case my Mora would be on Gesamt Konstwerk. Question. Mr. Nine, you mentioned in Farewell, Frau Welt that you were suffering from hair loss. Are you doing better now? Could the Yai publishing house not accept this sort of question, and do people actually read what gets added in these new editions? Editor-in-chief's note. Oh, but the readers are very concerned about you, and yes, they are also very concerned with the purchase of new editions. Yai is such a troll, oh my god. Dude, Yai is such a little smug gremlin. Yai is a brat. Yai might be 500 years old, but Yai is like a teenager. She's a teenager with all kinds of like this power. So what a brat. She's so funny, so random, so quirky. So quirky. Alright, everybody. I can feel my voice starting to go. But last but not least, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually spit on a teacup. No, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read the 'Twas a Night Before Christmas. Yeah. So I'll read this real quick. This will be the last thing I read. Let me turn up the fireplace sounds a little bit. Hopefully you can hear that. Sorry, I know you can hear the AC, but it's working overtime right now because of the cold. Sorry about the white noise. Anywho. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
Happy
The
holiday and
stockings
enjoy
were
your
hung
good time with
by
your
the chimney
family,
with
Maneko.
care,
4 hard, I hope
in
they
hopes
get
that
well
Saint
soon and you
Nicholas
do not catch the flu.
soon would be there.
Maneko 4 head patch share
The
more
children
food
were
with
nestled
recipe
all
and
snug
your
in their
girls
beds,
pick more please
while
Maneko 4
visions of
heart
sugar
have merry
plums
merry
danced
day
in
and
their
stay
heads.
healthy and safe
And
Maneko
Mama
4
in her
pop Maneko
kerchief
4
and I
waddle.
in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of a new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below. when what to do my wandering eyes should appear, but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Dunder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away. As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys was flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes how they twinkled, his dimples how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry, his droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed, a little bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to work, and I filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprung up to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Sorry, I didn't read that because I didn't want to stop in the middle of it. I just wanted to do it all at once. Thank you, Khan, for the cheer. Mwah. Happy holiday. Enjoy your good time with your family. I hope they all get well soon and you do not catch the flu. Share more food with recipes and your girls' picks more, please. Have Merry Christmas and stay healthy and safe. You too, Khan. I know it's probably not as cold where you are as it is where I am, but if it does miraculously get cold one day, well, then make sure you stay warm. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I will look for somebody to raid real quick. But I will not be streaming for the rest of the weekend, as I will be spending time with, we said the Spy Family. Okay, let's see, how long has B been streaming? Okay, B has only been streaming for an hour. Thank God. We can actually raid her again. Let's try again. B's playing Cooking Simulator. No, it's not ending this time. Not this time. Hold on, I'm just gonna go in her chat real quick and peek. Can we get the raid message in chat, Atika? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Alright, I'm gonna start the raid. Everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, stay warm. I will be streaming before the year ends, again, so next week. So don't worry, this wasn't the last stream, or by any means. But I hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you guys later. Good yarn yar. Make sure to copy pasta the raid message that Atika posted. The Agent Mono infiltration complete. And what else? If you're not subscribed, if you are not subscribed to my channel, I'm not her. Look.
I promise, I'm not. I thought you already ended stream. Hi, Mono.
This is awkward. She doesn't know. She has no idea.
Don't raid me.
She has no idea. No idea. She has no idea. All right, go everybody. Good night. Take care, everybody. Good night. Bye bye. Bye bye. Good night. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.